Hi guys, welcome to your channel Digital Empaths, where we discuss on the different facts and trends around the digital industry. I'm your host Sushant Ajmani, and in our today's Weekend Knowledge series, we are going to discuss on another interesting topic, that is insights adoption, which is a very fundamental problem in our digital industry that I'm sure we all face on a day-to-day basis. So when we talk about the term insights adoption, what does it mean basically? So if you look at most of the large enterprises, whether you are a part of a CPG industry, FMCG, retail, technology, or even BFSI, in the last 10 to 15 years, millions of dollars have been invested on setting up the data infrastructures on the cloud, whether it's on Azure or AWS or even Google. And after setting up these data infrastructure, the fundamental question that comes out of it, that how to derive the value out of this data that we are aggregating, whether the data you're aggregating is on going in your data lakes, whether you have built up some kind of a smart data hub. So the question is that all the data that we are capturing it, which is coming from different sources in different shapes and form. It could be a structured data, could be your unstructured data. And once you store all this data in a data hub or in some kind of a data lake, the question comes that how to derive the value out of this data. So what most of the companies do is they set up the whole BI infrastructure around it. They set up a whole MDM layer around their data lakes or some kind of a data model, which allows them to identify the relationship between the different data dimensions and metrics, and also empowered them to derive some value out of this data in the form of either reports, in the form of dashboards, could be scorecards, or maybe a mobile application that you can build on top of it. So now let's take an assumption that you have invested in a data infrastructure on the cloud. Now you set up a data lake, which is aggregating data from, let's say, 35, 40 different sources. You set up an MDM layer on top of it. And now what you did was you decided that, we need a BI platform. And there are multiple BI platforms exist in the market, whether you go to self-service BI platforms like Tableau, Power BI, or Click. Irrespective whichever platform you choose, those platforms' job is to create enablement or empowerment for the business users who are going to be consuming this data. They're not the decision-making tools. They are the tools which helps you to make sense out of the data, which is stored in different structures, different formats, either in your enterprise data warehouse or on your data lakes. So in our example, the data is sitting in a data lake. You have set up a whole MDM layer on top of it. And now what you want is you want to build some kind of a tabular data model which allows your BI platform to extract value out of it. So whichever BI platform you choose, let's say Power BI or Tableau. Now, depending on the platform you choose, you set up the different types of dashboards. Okay. Now these dashboards are catering to different types of personas in your organization. Some of these dashboards are catering to your power users. Some of these dashboards are catering to your middle management layer. There are people who are your managers, senior managers, directors. And certain dashboards and scorecards are catering to the senior management, okay, the individuals VP and above, and then the executive layer. So for different personas, the needs are very different. How they want to consume the insights, what kind of actions do they want to take based on that data, it all varies based on the persona. So we cannot create a story which fits to each and every persona. So we need a very tailored, very customized storyline, which not only go after an individual persona, but also respect that person roles and responsibility, the context in which he or she is in, and also understands what is actionable for him. What kind of actions do he wants to take based on that data? What kind of decision-making process he or she follows? So in your case, let's say you set up a dashboard and the dashboard has gone live. And unfortunately, you're not seeing a good adoption. The adoption rate is pretty low. And now all the fingers are pointing on you, being a part of the BI and analytics team, that why these dashboards are not seeing a scale, why they're not seeing a massive adoption that we anticipated while setting up a dashboard. So in those cases, it's very important to conduct some kind of a qualitative surveys, to try to go back to your business users and try to understand that what is stopping them to make the best use of that particular storyline that you have published. So I'm going to share with you in this particular episode certain key questions that you need to ask, okay, both as a part of your BI and analytics team, and also identify those key focus groups across your organization hierarchy, which is your power users, some of the individuals in the mid management, your senior management, and your executive layer, and try to understand that what are those trigger points which motivates them to use it, and what are those detractors. So let's start with the first question, that what percentage of the users are accessing the dashboard at least once a week? That's very important. So if your data, your backend data source, which is your data model, if it's not getting refreshed multiple times during the day, let's say it gets refreshed once in a week, or maybe a couple of times in a week. So it's very, very important that depending on the data refresh that happens behind the scene, it also decides the frequency of usage of your application layer, which is your dashboard in this case. So if the business users knows that the dashboards usually don't get refreshed more than once in a week, so there is a great tendency that they will not log in or access the dashboard multiple times during the week. So if you see that your dashboards are only getting accessed less than once a week, it's important to understand what is the backend data refresh frequency. If the data refresh is happening once in a week, it's quite evident that they're accessing the dashboards only on those days when actually the dashboards got refreshed, which in most of the clients that I have worked in the past, and I'm sure some of the organizations where you work with, either it happens earlier in the week or maybe at the later half of the week. Okay, so it's very important to understand the backend data refresh frequency and also how often the business users are accessing at the application layer and during the week. The second question that comes is that what percentage of them have no prior understanding of the BI platform? See, oftentimes the business users complain that they have been imposed a new BI tool to use. They're quite comfortable using the traditional BI platforms. They're quite comfortable with the platforms like Excel because that gives them a lot of flexibility and control. It gives them a lot of flexibility to do a lot of pivot tables. They already have macros in place. It's easy for them to go from one worksheet to another worksheet. And if they are a power user, they can also use the statistical package within Excel and do some basic statistical analysis, maybe build some kind of an histograms, do some kind of a correlation analysis, mean, median, modes, okay? And they can also try to do some kind of a variation analysis based on the statistical package that Excel provides. And now it already has lots of other advanced features that you don't need the most sophisticated statistical package knowledge like R or Python to derive some insights out of the data. You can do a lot of kick-ass insights within Excel also. So it's very important to understand that do your business users face challenges with the adoption of the new BI platform because they're not quite accustomed with the interface. They're not quite accustomed with how this BI platform is actually generating the insights, what is the backend data model looks like, what kind of computations are happening behind the scene, what is that knowledge gap, what is that void which is causing them not to access it during the week. Number third is that I've learned over these years is that a lot of time people are not keen to learn, okay? They are quite averse to change. They are in the comfort zone, and over the years, they have developed a habit of using certain tools. And now suddenly, as a part of a BI and analytics team, you have come to them and say, you know what, we are shifting to a completely new tool, a different look and feel, a different way of accessing the insights. And now they need to learn a new interface. So a lot of time people push back. They don't want to invest time because they're so much involved into their day-to-day operational challenges that there is no motivation for them to access it. The fourth very important question that needs to go as a part of your qualitative survey is that what are the key concerns with the storyline that you have created in the new BI platform? The new dashboard that you've created, what elements of the storyline are not connecting with them? Is it the look and feel? Is it the selection of the different dimensional filters on the top? Or is it the different metrics that you have chosen? And maybe some of those metrics are not resonating with the personas. Maybe the different type of charts are not connecting with them. You have used some really nice jazzy chart like your box and whiskers, your scatter plot, your bubble chart. People are still quite used to using your vertical bars, your horizontal bars, your donuts. And suddenly you are pushing them to learn different types of new charts in which they're finding it quite challenging to accept it. So try to understand what are those application elements, whether it's the look and feel or it is the part of your dimensions and metrics which are not connecting with their persona. The other important part is that what kind of actions are they expected to take after they consume the storyline in the dashboard? See, this is a very, very important question. And this question should be a part of your requirements gathering process. If you include this question at the time of your requirements gathering process while you were building a dashboard, you can avoid a lot of adoption challenges once you go live. See, oftentimes we don't ask this question to our business users that what kind of actions they are expected to take once they consume this particular storyline. For example, if you have built up a dashboard for maybe a chief marketing officer, and in that dashboard, there are multiple metrics that you have put. You have put some of your marketing related metrics, like your typical metric, like your impressions, your clicks, your click-through rates, your CPM rates, your cost per acquisition, your marketing or return on investment. Or you might have also introduced some of your B2B metrics, like your marketing qualified leads, okay? Well, what are your sales qualified leads? What are your sales accepted leads? If you are a B2B business, you might also have some of your life cycle metrics like your lifetime value, your churn probability, maybe your share of wallet, okay? So a CMO dashboard could have multiple different types of metrics and dimensions, okay, which helps them to understand the bigger picture, that how the marketing is adding value from downstream to the upstream. So it's very, very critical to understand that how these different metrics interplay is resonating with that particular persona. And after he consumes that story, if he sees that there is a surge in the cost per acquisition during a week, okay, now it's very important to understand that what are the possible actions that he would like to take whenever the cost per acquisition goes high. Should we send him an alert whenever the cost per acquisition goes beyond a certain threshold? What if the click-through rates decline, okay, from a particular channel, which usually have a higher click-through rate, let's say your paid search channel, or maybe your affiliate channels, which usually give you a higher CTR, but suddenly you see since last 2 to 3 weeks, the CTRs have started going down. So these are the kind of things you need to proactively gauge and trigger some kind of an anomaly and notify this particular user at the right time, not at the end of the week or at the end of the month, because by that time the damage has already happened. The marketing budget has already been spent. So no corrective action can be taken during that particular month. The only thing you can do is you can take learning from that particular experience and try to optimize your spend for the following month or following week. So it's important to understand when you talk to these different business users, whether it is your CMO, your head of supply chain operations, maybe your B2B sales guy, maybe your head of CRM, that once they consume your story, what type of actions are they expected to take, or what kind of levers they need to pull. The other important thing that you need to figure it out is that if they say that the current storyline in the dashboard is completely crap, it's not working for them, they don't see any motivation to access it. So the important question to ask is that what are those 2 or 3 critical elements in the current storyline that demands immediate attention? Because you cannot just radically change the dashboard, because if the utilization is among 100 people or 150 people, even though they're not accessing it quite frequently, but still if they're accessing once in a week, you cannot radically change a dashboard or scorecard just because if it does not connect with few, maybe 5% or 10% of the individuals. So it's important to understand that what are those 2 or 3 critical elements which, if you fix it now, in the next 24 to 48 hours, will that motivate them to access the dashboard? Sometimes we need to put the business stakeholders on the spot and try to understand that what are those key points. There cannot be a situation that the entire scorecard or a dashboard is crap, that it is not connecting at all. There's always 2 or 3 critical elements that can be fixed, maybe sometime through an application layer, maybe by making some tweaks at the ETL layer, maybe by making some changes in your backend data model. So it's important to understand that what are those critical elements which can be fixed in the next few days or in the next few weeks. The other important piece that I want to call out is what is their incumbent insights consumption medium, and what are the known challenges that they're facing with that. What does this mean is basically that prior to adoption to this new BI platform, what were the other BI platform they were already using? Were they using some competitive platform? Were they using the traditional mediums like Excel? Okay, or they were using some the older enterprise BI platforms like your Cognos or the business objects of the world, okay, or maybe MicroStrategy, which is again has evolved significantly in the last, I would say, 8 to 9 years. So now the question comes that what are those areas in the current consumption mediums which is creating stickiness, and what are those areas which are the biggest pain in the ass for them, okay, which is really not allowing them to get the real value out of it. Because those elements, if you fix it within the new BI platform or within the new storyline, you can easily sway these people towards the new dashboards and scorecards. Okay, so it's important to understand that what are those sticky elements and what are those detracting elements that demands attention. The other important question that you need to include as a part of your qualitative survey is that what percentage of them are happy with the current set of insights and consumption medium and don't find it motivating at all. See, it happens oftentimes that when we set up the initial set of dashboards in a new BI platform, we try to replicate the existing storylines. Okay, we believe that if we can simply replicate the same Excel dashboard or Excel scorecard in a Tableau or in Power BI or in Click, it might accelerate the adoption. And oftentimes when these people access these environments, they find it, wow, it's exactly the same storyline, okay? Same metrics, same dimensions. And I feel more comfortable, more controlled when I'm accessing the Excel because I've been using it for last 5 years, 7 years, or 10 years maybe. And now we go to them, you know what? I can allow you to slice and dice the data by applying different dimensional metrics, dimensions on the top. Okay, you can change the date and time filter quite easily. You can slice individual charts. You can change your charts. So there's a lot of control I am giving in your hand, which you may or may not have in your incumbent dashboard. So those kind of comparative analysis is very, very important. And while doing that, we might come across a situation where the business users might feel that, you know what, it's still a hassle to go and learn a new tool or a new interface. I'm quite happy with my current tool. See, we don't need to push people too hard, because if we push too hard, the resistance, the barrier of entry will also increase significantly. Certain times we need to leave these people and go after those segments of your organization hierarchy which have shown a higher affinity to learn new interfaces or new tools. Okay, and see if you can leverage those people as your data literacy champions. See if you can leverage those people as your adoption champions. Maybe you can piggyback on them and try to spread the adoption or the literacy around your new BI platform within your workforce. Okay, so we don't need to go too hard. We don't need to forcefully impose on them. Okay, because there will always be a certain fraction of your people which will not adopt a new BI platform. They're quite happy with that older environments, so let it be. Okay. The other two questions which I would like to call out here is that what percentage of them don't find the new storyline in your new invested BI platform is relevant and actionable? This is a very, very critical element. And it's very important that we ask this question at the time of requirements gathering also. How? This is the way you need to ask. So while you're doing your requirements gathering, it's very important to ask your different stakeholders that what is their day-to-day persona responsibilities are, what role they play, what are their day-to-day operational challenges are, what are the KPIs that they're accountable for, okay, what kind of actions they are expected to take on a weekly and monthly basis, what is the decision-making process looks like, okay, and in the current environment, whenever they have any question or any clarification, whom they contact first, their analyst or their immediate subordinate, or what do they do? Okay, so it's very important to understand all these elements at the time of requirements gathering process. So that will help you understand what is relevant for this particular persona while you're constructing your storyline. Okay, another thing you need to also ask your persona is what is actionable for them. Okay, what is actionable for a power user is different than what is actionable for a vice president. Okay, sometimes the people who are in the middle management, okay, they need more operational insights which are more near real time so that they can take timely corrective actions, while the people in the senior management or in the executive layer, they are more futuristics. They like to do more predictive insights, they like to have more prescriptive recommendations. And even if they are looking at the historical facts, they would like to go ask for the why question, that why certain things happen. So for them, causation is very important. For them, prediction is very important. For them, the prescriptive recommendations are very important. So depending on the type of audience you're catering to, try to understand what is actionable for them. If you don't know that, you might come across a situation where you have built a very fantastic dashboard or very nice scorecard with all the fancy bells and whistles, and the adoption is very, very minuscule. So if you have not asked this question at the time of requirements gathering, it's okay. Now the dashboard is live. You can still go back to your key stakeholders and ask them this question, that what is relevant for them and what is actionable for them. Okay. And the last thing that I want to call it out in this episode today is that what percentage of them are skeptical about the data quality and the underlying computation? See, oftentimes people blame that our data sucks. I don't trust my data. Okay. I've been struggling to make sense out of this data for years. Okay. I've already opened so many tickets with our BI team and analytics team, and most of these things are still not fixed. And you know what? We take data from a lot of our second and third party players, and that data quality is already very bad. And once that data mixes up with our first party data sitting in our data lake, it creates more mess. So I'm still skeptical about the data quality. See, the data quality problem is not something that is a problem with the BI platform. Okay, the BI platforms are the enablers. They're not the data quality solvers. If the source data is the problem, it's better to go back to the source and try to understand that what is the problem. Is it the problem is the way the source system is capturing it? Is it the problem at the ETL layer where you're doing all the mining and the transformations? Is it the problem at the application layer where you are constructing your different derived metrics, your calculated metrics? Is it the way you have built your data model? Is it the way the different joins have been done? At what level the problems are? It's very important to figure it out at what stage the quality challenges are getting introduced. Okay, instead of getting bogged down and take up blame that, oh my God, it's the BI platform suck. It's not the BI platform, because they are basically enabling you. Behind the scene is the game of how you have built up your tabular data model or your multi-dimensional cube. And even if you are directly connecting with your structured data set, either through a REST API or maybe through some kind of an ETL platform. So it's very important to understand that where the quality challenges are, and can that be solved in the immediate future, or do we need to take a more agile approach and start solving them in multiple sprints over the next few months. Oftentimes, there is a very important thing people ignore it, that the way the different metrics are computed. In my last 20 years, I've come across so many situations where when you go to a client and you ask them the definitions of different metrics, you will find different answers, okay? How they calculate a net promoter score, how they calculate a CSAT, how they calculate the lifetime value, how they calculate their customer acquisition cost, their share of wallet. There are different types of metrics in different business functions are being perceived in a very different way. And the interesting part is the formulas, your numerator and denominators, oftentimes are not in sync. They're not very cohesively discussed across the organization. So it's very important to have the proper glossaries and proper pages associated as an addendum to your dashboards and scorecards, so that the people who are consuming it, they can go to the glossary, they can read those addendums and try to understand that what is the underlying definition and how should I be interpreting it. And while you're building a glossary, also mention that at what stage these individual metrics gets captured. Okay, do they get captured upstream, downstream? Okay, if it's if you have a pretty long customer life cycle, it's important to understand, does it capture at the top of the funnel, at the middle of the funnel, or at the bottom of the funnel? So all those things have to be very well crafted and should be discussed with the consumers. Because if these things are not very well discussed, if you don't invest in this kind of a data literacy, you will always have adoption challenges. Okay. At the end, what I would say is that once you run these kind of surveys, try to look at this as an unbiased user. Okay. Don't try to sway your understanding based on one department or with another department. Try to look at the things holistically at one, as well as try to look at the things at an individual department level. Okay. Because you cannot have a storyline which is organization pervasive, which is going to be acceptable. In today's world, if you look at any industry, every industry has multiple categories. So even if you take like a CPG industry, even if when I talk about maybe a Mars or PepsiCo's, or if I take any other large CPG and FMCG player, each one of them have businesses in multiple categories, either pet care or nutrition business, or maybe their beverages business, or maybe their snacks category, maybe grocery category. So they have multiple categories in which they usually play in. Now, under each category, they have different kinds of brands that they deal in. And there are different business functions are under each category. You have your sales and distribution, you have your logistics, you have your supply chain, you have your consumer insights, okay? And you also have your marketing, your finance. Now, each one of these functions have individual needs. So there cannot be a situation that what you did for one category will exactly work for the another category. So whenever we are building a storyline, we need to go to the individual function, and under that function, what are those individual personas? Because the personification exercise can be done either at the function level or it can be done at an individual level. So try to discuss on all these elements while doing your requirements gathering, so that you don't have to go back to the whiteboard once the things goes live, because by that time the damage has already happened. And now you're trying to salvage the situation and trying to push the people that use it, but it does not happen that easily. Okay. So at the end, please, if you have adoption challenges with your existing storylines, take a step back, do some kind of a qualitative survey across your organization hierarchy, and understand where the challenges are. And in the next episode of this particular topic, we're going to talk about that once you run this survey and once you get the responses, how to smartly cluster these responses and how to derive value out of these responses so that you can devise a proper adoption plan for different personas. Until then, stay safe, stay connected, and please do share your comments below this video. And if you have any further suggestions on a new topic that you want me to talk about, please also mention it in the comment section. Take care.